This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom. You can visit their store by using my referral link in the description below. Hi everyone, I'm Nitsahone, and it's Friday, and that means it's time for another MTG Top 10, the series where I rank cards based on their historical performance at Magic's highest level of competition. One of my goals with this series is to get around to doing a top 10 video on every single set, and we're doing another one today with this MTG Top 10 covering Khans of Tarkir. Khans of Tarkir was the first set of Tarkir block, and it was released in 2014. As a plane, Tarkir was inspired by Mongolian history and culture. It was also a set really based around wedges, that is, the three color combinations that are made up of a single color and its two enemy colors. As a result, the set has 5 main factions in it, all of which are the eponymous Khans. These include Abzan, which was green, white, and black, Mardu, which was black, white, and red, Temur, which was red, blue, and green, and Sultai, which was blue, green, and black. To be eligible for this video, a card had to receive its first printing in Khans of Tarkir. That means there are 231 cards in the set that qualify. In this video, we'll take a look at the 10 of those that have left the biggest impact on competitive Magic. Before we get started, here's a quick reminder on how I score cards in these videos. A first tier top 8 is worth 2 points. This includes events like Pro Tours and Set Championships. A second tier top 8 is worth 1 point, and this includes events like Grand Prix and Magic Online challenges. Alright, let's get to the list. At number 10, it is Utter End. As you can see, this list is going to be pretty stacked, as it took 62 points just to come in at number 10. Utter End is a 4-mana instant that can exile any non-land permanent, and the kind of flexibility that offers is pretty great, as there are always problematic permanents around, and this one answers pretty much all of them. Unsurprisingly, it was played in just about every mid-range or control deck that was both black and white while it was in Standard. There just wasn't any other card that was as efficient as a catch-all. Like a lot of two-colored cards, it is also played in Pioneer's Niv Mizzet Reborn deck, as it's a pretty great card to draw off of Niv's Enter the Battlefield ability. It is likely to gain some more points in Pioneer, but it isn't super likely to catch things in front of it anytime soon. At number 9, it is Anafenza the Foremost. She gives you a ton for only 3 mana. She's a 4/4, she puts counters on other tapped creatures when she attacks, and she just so happens to also hate on the graveyard, forcing creatures who die to go to exile instead of the yard. Anafenza's points in Standard all came in various Abzan decks as well as 4-color Collected Company. Imagine paying 4 mana for a Collected Company and getting Anafenza and another creature. Yeah, she was just one of the best things you could hit with that powerful instant. She's also transitioned to Modern, where she is frequently played in human tribal decks. She's also seen some sideboard play in Pioneer, where she's good at hating on graveyard decks like Landless Spy. At number 8, it is Sorin, Solemn Visitor. He's a strong planeswalker because he has the ability to create evasive creature tokens that can protect him, and he has a +1 that really pays you off for going wide, both inflicting extra damage and gaining you a ton of life, which makes it pretty hard for your opponent to race you on most boards. The Edict Ultimate is the kind of thing that will eventually result in you winning the game too, because most decks can't afford to just lose a creature every turn like that. In both Standard and Modern, Sorin has mostly been played in token decks, which can take the most advantage of his +1. For a long time, he hadn't really gained a point since 2016, but he did gain a single point in Pioneer in 2021 in a Rally the Ancestors deck. He doesn't exactly look primed to gain a bunch more points, but he isn't completely inactive anymore either. At number 7, it is Wingmate Rock. If you have attacked earlier in your turn, Wingmate Rock gives you 2 3/4s with flying for only 5 mana, and on top of that, it can give you some extra life when it attacks. This makes it quite the formidable 5-drop, as it can really turn the game around between the life gain and the 2 imposing bodies. It was played in a whole lot of mid-range and control decks while it was in Standard, including Abzan, Naya, and Mardu. It hasn't managed to gain any points since rotating though, and it seems like its spot on this list in the long run is in jeopardy. At number 6, it's Mantis Rider, a 3-mana 3/3 with 3 keyword abilities: Haste, Flying, and Vigilance. This combination of keywords means that the Rider gives you an evasive creature that puts your opponent on a quick clock because it can attack right away, while it can also hang back and protect you if necessary. While in Standard, it was played in Jeskai midrange and aggro decks, but it's found even more success in Modern, where it's been played in humans. Mantis Rider has seen a ton of play there since the deck has excellent mana and lots of human payoffs, making Mantis Rider a great fit. It will continue to gain points in Modern in the future and has a very real shot to move up this list significantly. At number 5, it's Abzan Charm. Each wedge got a charm in this set, but this is the only one that makes this list, and that's not too surprising as Abzan was by far the most dominant of all the wedges in Standard. So, like all charms, this is a modal card that gives you 3 separate options. Abzan Charm can let you exile a large creature, draw you a couple of cards, or put +1/+1 counters on your creature. So, yeah, you won't always have a target to exile, and you won't always have creatures who want +1/+1 counters, but the flexibility is great here because when you can't utilize those modes, it has a fairly broad ability that just draws you cards. This means Abzan Charm will pretty much always be useful. The charm was mostly played in standard Abzan decks, which it helped make into the most dominant deck of that standard format. It also has a single point in Modern from back in 2015. Despite its impressive score, it has been idle now since 2016, and it looks pretty likely that Mantis Rider will be passing it in the very near future. At number 4, it is Monastery Swiftspear, which has a pretty reasonable claim to the title of Best Red 1-Drop Ever. She's a 1-mana 1/2 that comes with haste and prowess. She's absolutely incredible in red aggro and burn decks. These decks tend to run efficient spells that do damage, so burning your opponent's face while pumping your attacker is great, as is killing a blocker and attacking with a buffed Swiftspear. Swiftspear has been played in various aggro decks in Standard, Modern, Pioneer, and even Legacy, and it has a good chance to break into the top 2 or 3 on this list in the future. As I noted earlier, the Plain of Tarkir is inspired by Mongolian history and culture, and there were sometimes female Mongol warriors in the Middle Ages, so a card like Monastery Swiftspear or Anafenza the Foremost isn't that unrealistic. If you like the Mongolian theme of this block, you should check out this video's special sponsor, World Breakers. It's a card game set in an alternate version of 13th century Mongolia, where a substance called Mythium has altered the timeline. This substance helps enhance people's attributes and makes them even greater than they already were. The people who utilize these resources are called World Breakers. One of these World Breakers is Kutalun, a real warrior princess from 13th century Mongolian history, and the kind of figure who helped inspire cards like Monastery Swiftspear and Anafenza the Foremost. World Breakers isn't a collectible card game. Instead, you simply buy the game and you have access to all the cards. It's a 2-player game that can be played in both constructed and draft formats. Within the game, you play as one of these World Breakers and you attempt to accumulate more power than your opponent, and you do this by attacking them with your followers and getting resources out of location cards. Kutalun is all about enhancing the attack power of her followers, so she's also quite aggressive, just like Monastery Swiftspear. I'm really excited for this new game, and I hope you are too. A Kickstarter campaign for the game will be launching in early March, and in the meantime, you can sign up for the mailing list. If you do that and later support the Kickstarter, you'll actually get an alternate art version of one of the other World Breakers, Marco Polo, featuring me. You can find a link in the description that will let you do just that. At number 3, it is Murderous Cut, a removal spell with the Delve mechanic. While Abzan was definitely the most dominant of the factions introduced in the set, the Delve mechanic, which was the Sultai faction's mechanic, was certainly the most busted. Delve lets you reduce the cost of spells by exiling cards from your graveyard, giving you a great discount if your deck was good at loading the graveyard. Even just being able to reduce the cost of Murderous Cut to 3 or so was a great deal, and it usually cost a lot less than that. In addition to amassing 92 points in Standard, it's found some more limited success in Modern, Legacy, and Vintage. It will probably keep gaining points, but the majority of its points did come in Standard, and it hasn't been adding to its score a whole lot since rotating, so the Swiftspear is definitely going to be passing it in the near future. At number 2, it is Siege Rhino, yet another powerful Abzan card, and perhaps the very first card you think of when you think of Khans of Tarkir. The Rhino is a 4-mana 4/5 with Trample that lightning helixes the opponent in the face, and that Enter the Battlefield ability means that even if your opponent does manage to take it down, you're going to get some considerable value out of the Rhino, since it creates a 6-point life swing. He isn't that easy to kill in the first place though, as his size put him out of range of a lot of removal in Standard. All of that power has meant that Siege Rhino's success hasn't been contained to Standard, though it hasn't been nearly as dominant outside of it. Still, it also helps make Abzan decks a thing in Modern, while also gaining points in other decks in the format, like Junk and Birthing Pod. It also has 1 point in Pioneer, coming in a Niv Mizzet Reborn deck. Siege Rhino seems likely to gain more points going forward, but it hasn't done a whole lot in the more recent past, so I could honestly see it getting surpassed by the Swiftspear before too long. And at number 1, I've got 2 cards, Dig Through Time and Treasure Cruise. I've included them together here because they are very similar cards, and they would have been the number 1 and number 2 card on the list if they were each given their own slot. They're both powerful blue draw spells that come with Delve, and while they both found some success in Standard, they've been enormously powerful in other formats, where there are larger card pools and more busted graveyard decks. Paying 2 for Dig Through Time or 1 for Treasure Cruise wasn't that hard to manufacture, and as a result, they both ended up getting banned in Modern and Legacy and restricted in Vintage. These bans and restrictions have definitely slowed these cards down, but they still both see so much play as a 1-of in Vintage that it seems likely that they'll continue to occupy the top spot on this list. So those are the 10 cards from Khans of Tarkir that have left the biggest impact on competitive Magic. If you want to own any of these cards, check out the description, where you'll find direct Card Kingdom links for each of them. If you enjoyed this video, please like it and share it so that others can enjoy it too. If you want to make sure you catch content in the future, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you want to catch up on past content, including a lot more MTG top 10s on individual sets, you should see a playlist on your screen shortly. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting the channel, you can on Patreon. Thanks for watching.